Predictability is when you have so much fuel on an airplane and you're flying to England, they figure if there's a headwind and it delays the airplane for an hour or an hour and a half, is the worst headwind they ever had, they carry enough fuel to exceed an hour and a half. Do you understand what I mean? Is that perfect? No. But it's better than just carrying enough fuel to get to England. So they measure headwinds, they measure all the things that would interfere with the ideal. So what are pilots looking for? Predictability. If I get a tailwind, I can save fuel. So they fly to an altitude when they know there's a tailwind that conserves fuel. It costs less and it's safer. So where do you get predictability? They actually set buildings ablaze, buildings that are rejects, and time its burning to see how long it takes a building to burn to the ground. Then they study if a person poured gasoline on the floor and set the fire, or was it due to lightning striking the building? Well, they look for areas of charred material and remnants of gasoline, or whatever they can find to say whether it's a homespun job that the guy burned his own house down to collect insurance. Now, a friend of mine worked for an insurance company, and he was a lawyer. And there are many people that set their house on fire, or they fake automobile accidents. 2 people fake it to collect insurance. So this guy claimed he was in an accident and had a terrible back injury. So being a lawyer working for the company, he'd arrive at the guy's house in the morning and let the air out of one tire completely, so it's flat. Then the guy would come out with a back injury, change the tire, bounce it over on the ground, and put it on the car. And then he'd go to the other guy's lawyer and say, look, we have film evidence that his back injury is not, look, here's a picture. And the guy changing the tire, bouncing it, bending down, taking the wheel. And says, you don't stand a chance in a court. And his lawyer says, will you settle for $2,000 out of the court rather than $50,000? The lawyer says, yeah, we better settle. So lawyers are becoming more students of events. You know, if a guy claims he has a back end, he can't even bend to pick up a pail of water, they show the guy changing the tire. They come on now, let's settle out of court. So lawyers are becoming, even though the guy had a back injury, he had to change his tire to get to work. But that is not discussed at all. They just show the guy bouncing the tire, putting it on. So when you're dealing with a big insurance company, they have a legal staff, they have photographs of you coming out of your house in the morning, carrying the garbage out, and you say, I can't do a thing, I lay in bed all day. They photograph you doing things, and they submit it to the other law firm. Do you understand that? That's using statistical evidence to downgrade your claims, and it usually works. So if we use the scientific method, not for that purpose though, to elevate human beings, if we use the term elevate and we define what we mean by elevate human beings, so they never act nasty, they never get into fights, they never bawl one another out, you're a horse's ass, you didn't do the right thing, that doesn't change people. They learn how to do the right thing to get people motivated in what you call constructive direction. Criticizing people, saying, you don't know how to dig a hole. You've been on that hole for 3 weeks. That doesn't show them how to dig a hole. If you use your foot on the shovel rather than try to push the shovel into the ground, you're going to use more energy and get tired faster. So instruction. Now, does instruction mean that the person will do the right thing? Not necessarily. You watch them work, you watch how they work, and you give them a rating when they become fully qualified to dig, meaning they know how to use their foot, they know what boots to wear, and they know how to angle the shovel. All of that specifies qualifications. If you train a person in electrical engineering only through books, never working with anything, they only halfway there. If they put sockets together, know how to check a circuit, see if it's alive, or whether they can get shocked by it, they are more qualified. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that they won't be electrocuted. It means that they're less apt to be electrocuted. Do you understand what I mean? So in the future, I would say mostly hands-on learning along with books. But hands-on learning means touching, doing things. And nobody will do things right away. They can't do things best. They will all, I'm using old language, make mistakes. Meaning you can't know the answer to things unless you've encountered them and learned how to work your way through them. So knowledge and training is not merely paper examinations on paper, answering the questions right, wrong, or maybe, or check the right answers. It's not the whole thing. It's actual engaging in a system, and it's how well the system works. So if I design a society and I say, well, I think this is pretty good, and we install it, and it doesn't work, then you have to change it, regardless of who did what. If it doesn't work, it's not the thing. It's not correct. And if you teach people general semantics, which I did in the old days, and they called each other names, instead of calling a guy a goddamn son of a bitch, you're semantically ignorant. They use it the same way they use the old thing. And I taught a relative of mine semantics, and he used it in the stock market, and he won. He used semantics to take advantage of other people. Do you know what I'm talking about? So there's semantics and there's semantics. In a sane society, semantics has to be used to elevate all people, not yourself. And a person well schooled in semantics will teach a person how to use it with getting the best results. Do you understand what I mean by people using semantics for self? And they don't call a person names. This is, that's an either-or statement. You know, they use it against one another. Things aren't either-or. But if you're backed up by a lion on a precipice, either you jump off into the water down below, or you be consumed by the lion. There are either-or situations. There are black and white situations. But the semantics doesn't look for it. Do you understand? So it isn't semantics that people need. What they need is operational definitions.